Have you ever heard of a little indie gem called Hollow Knight? Probably not, you stupid bitch. There's been about 1,000 million billion videos made on Hollow Knight, so when Mr. Jared Cho subscribed to the What the Fuck is Wrong with You tier on my Patreon and asked me for a Hollow Knight video, I was a little stumped. How do you make a video about one of the most talked about games on YouTube? Well, I have an idea. I'm going to try to explain why I love Hollow Knight in 4 moments, or like, in aspects? There's no simple way to explain this. If you're a fan of semantics, you're not gonna like this video. You might be surprised to hear, but the first time I actually played Hollow Knight was only around a year ago. I somehow managed to stay completely unspoiled on the game ever since it released in 2017, except for MatPat's theory on it, and you probably know what happened there. And instead of telling you how much I like the game, I'll just tell you this. I played over 20 hours of Hollow Knight in the first 2 days. Eat, sleep, game, repeat, you know what I'm saying? Point is, Hollow Knight is, to its very core, a 10 out of 10, and the main reason for that is its fundamental game design. Need an example? Take my hand as I lead you to the Crystal Palace, or whatever it's fucking called. Crystal Peak takes a pretty stark contrast to the rest of the early areas in the game. After bumbling like an idiot around the forgotten Crossroads, all dark and dreary, I suddenly found an area glowing bright and purple. While I descended everywhere else, suddenly I found myself climbing. This area, filled with workers still slaving away at the glowing crystals, remains just as depressing despite its pleasant facade. Trekking through the peaks is not an easy task, as the remains of what used to be a bustling mining operation are still active and hostile. Every corridor is seemingly blocked off by some gate and switch hidden away by crushers or conveyor belts. But there is life inside of the walls. Found nested at the deepest part of the peaks is the Crystal Heart, an item that gives you the ability to dash horizontally as long as you have room, which is yet another piece of evidence that this game is blatantly ripping off Sonic 06. Now after getting this ability, then promptly dying to the fucking bench boss of all things, I found myself at an elevator suspended well above the town. And what is the very first instinct that I had at this moment? The feeling of pure excitement I got when I flew back into the King's Pass is unparalleled, because I knew that Hollow Knight would reward me for it. See, King's Pass is the first area in the game. After clearing through it, you jump down to Dirtmouth and never see it again. It wasn't even a thought in my head. Yet somehow, at that elevator, the idea just clicked with me. If you return to the very first room of the game and head left rather than right, you find an area with wall jumps that'll bring you to the Howling Cliffs. This area is not the most important and only has a few special things lurking inside of it, but that's not the point. The point is that it's there. The thing about exploration is that a lot of game designers don't quite understand it. That's not to say they don't make fantastic games or that no other game does it right, but Hollow Knight found the special sauce, and it's really quite simple. While there are basic hidden walls and little morsels to tide us over, Hollow Knight's exploration can be summed up in 5 words. What if I do this? As you likely know, Hollow Knight doesn't have a tutorial. As you might also know, that's a complete and utter lie. It might not tell you the button prompts, but King's Pass teaches you just as much as any amount of text could. You fall into the start of the game, in a room only passable through a barricade. What's the first thing you're gonna do? Well, obviously you're gonna break it. Next, you're met with several platforms being the only way up. I mean, obviously you're gonna try and figure out how to jump. After you jump up high enough, you find an enemy. Well, you figured out how to break stuff earlier, obviously you're gonna hit it. And after enough obviously's, you suddenly know every control in the game without a single word said. This design philosophy is infused into the entirety of the game, and it rewards the player for making connections. Anytime it would be natural to say, what if I do this? The game will reward you for it. But you might be sitting here and saying, yeah, that's how exploration games work. And you know, that's fair, I guess. So, you know what's harder to get away with in exploration? Murder! However, there is a show about how to do that, so it could be wrong, I haven't seen it. So how do you make combat feel good, besides, you know, making it feel good? The answer, my friend, is options. Slashing, shooting, ground pounds, clamshell, giant slash, dash slash, spin slash, goddamn! Sometime in the game, you find yourself a certain warrior named Tizo hanging around the surface. He invites you to join him at a mysterious coliseum he's heard about. This place turns out to be the Coliseum of Fools, and Jesus Christ is it fun. The rest of the game is fantastic, sure, but this place is pure enjoyment. 3 trials, each increasing in difficulty, with a perfect symphony of movement and combat. You could spend 100 years going through these bouts and still find new ways to fight them, and the idea of that is just beautiful to me. The Trial of the Fool, the hardest and longest out of them, doesn't offer any special prizes. Sure, it offers Geo, the game's money, but there's far easier ways to get it. The thing it really offers, pretty fittingly, is glory. And it does not make it easy to attain. The first several waves throw enemy after enemy towards you, including primal aspids, which make up about 90% of the difficulty of the entire game. Then for waves 5, 6, and 7, nothing but these armored little frog shits do their best impression of children at a Jake Paul concert, at one point removing the floor from you entirely. The midway point of the battle is marked by 5 simultaneous mini-bosses in direct succession. Now it's time for the hard part. The walls suddenly collapse in, and you're surrounded by winged fools above and Molochs below. Then it's worm time, just full-ass worm time. I'm not prepared for worm time. Then boom, it's spike time again, it's primal aspid time again, have fun wall jumping around this shit. And for the final wave, it's haymaker after haymaker. Heavy, sturdy mantis wings shielded, there was no holding back. And finally, we end it with a fight against the God Tamer, a duo of beast and warrior. There is no amount of Geo that would be more satisfying than that final strike. But, you know, I can't give combat all the credit for that. You see that? I'll do it again. See that? That right there is fucking amazing. You ever heard of movement? Hollow Knight has. Jump up, down, dash, wall jump, fucking spinneroonie, axle stall, this is crack cocaine. Movement, believe it or not, is pretty damn important in essentially any game that isn't Cookie Clicker or Five Nights at Freddy's, but it requires a deft touch and a steady hand to make truly great. When I first saw the collapsed armor in the palace grounds, I was like, oh, that looks important. Turns out, past me, pretty smart guy. After collecting 1800 Dream Essence, not an easy task, you enter the White Palace. I always liked this little fake out once you entered, feigning a boss fight. Turns out the suit of armor is just another enemy. No, the challenge here is not the enemies. The challenge is the palace itself. Do you like death and or dying? Do you like sharp things? You fucking better if you want to tackle this place. Just like combat, options is the name of the game for movement. You can either dash under the saw or pogo over it, do this entire section, or just like jump up there. The White Palace feels like a playground, letting the player move in whatever way they see fit. My biggest gripe with this place, however, is that it's a bit too easy. Not for most players, but definitely for me. But god damn it, Hollow Knight plopped the gift of all gifts on my lap. Say hello to the Path of Pain, and say goodbye to any sense of your sanity. The Path of Pain overall is really quite short, but the finish times don't seem to reflect that. While it's possible to finish the entire thing in a bit more than 2 minutes, it took me well over 2 hours on my first attempt, and many people closer to their 10s. The walls are replaced with spikes, the air is replaced with spikes, your immediate family members are replaced with spikes, and your skill is replaced with this sound. The designers were so supremely confident in its difficulty that it gives the player infinite health in basically every section. Death is not what's being risked here, it's just the path, and that is more than enough. I could take you through the entire thing, it wouldn't be that long, but I'd rather focus on the final section. First thing you might notice is that the floor, yeah. You keep yourself from imminent death by pogo sticking over every sharp thing you can find, all of which can't seem to stay in one place. The most dastardly part comes in at the end. You have to keep in tune with a constantly retracting set of spikes while a Mach 10 saw whips back and forth. What you need to do the moment the saw comes to you is bounce once, bounce twice, dash, double jump, double side pogo, time it with the saw again, and gap between 2 walls of thorns all in the span of 5 seconds. There is no amount of combat that is as satisfying to me as pulling that off. Now, according to a friend of mine who knows far more about the lore than I do, the cutscene at the end of the Path of Pain is also amazing. But to be honest, I really don't know much about it. I have a bad tendency to skip dialogue. There is, however, something I do know. Quirrell fucks. I don't know a lick about the plot of this game, but every time I see this suave motherfucker, I blush like an anime girl, let me tell you. And I don't believe I'm alone in that either. In fact, I believe it's quite intentional. If you go to the Hollow Knight wiki and look through the NPC list, you find a section called the Wanderers. Though not necessarily bound by plot or relation, a mighty few of these are easily the most beloved characters in Hollow Knight. Now, why is this? Obviously, they put a lot of effort into fleshing them out, but why do all of them wander? Deepnest is the most anxiety-inducing place in the game. Enemies popping out of nowhere, the ground dropping out from below you, all music replaced by an endless swarm of insects. It would make anyone paranoid, and just as many on the verge of death. There are very few reprieves here, but if you visit the failed tramway, then so happen to stand on this spot, an oasis with coral in the pool. And although the health and the soul is precious, what our friend has to say is much, much sweeter. Hello, hello, what a thrill this is to find such warm comfort amidst the den of beasts. Hollow Knight as a whole isn't too different from Deepnest. You sprint through maze after maze, cutting through enemies and trap after trap. It's just condensed. But in a world like this, so painfully dreary and depressing, what the Wanderers offer is relief. The reassuring song from Cornifer, knowing you'll walk away with some direction. The bustling bravado of Cloth, the intrepid arrogance of Zote, the quiet contempt of Hornet. In all of these unfamiliar areas, you find yourself oasis in these characters. They're the closest thing to friends you have in the game. But Quirrell, to me, is different. Besides Cornifer, Quirrell is the wanderer you see by far the most of. Hello there, how delightful to meet another traveler on these forgotten roads. You're a short one, but you've a strong look about you. I'm Quirrell. I have something of an obsession with uncharted places. This ancient kingdom holds many fascinating mysteries, and one of the most intriguing of them is standing right before us. A great stone egg lying in the corpse of an ancient kingdom. And this egg, is it warm? It certainly gives off a unique air. Can it be opened? There are strange marks all over it. I do so love a mystery. And who knows what other marvels lie even deeper below us. We find out later that Quirrell lost his memory some time ago. He entered this place, like us, with no knowledge of what laid before him. He wonders about the same things we do, and explores with the same vigor. While Hornet and Cloth offer reprieve, definitely, what Quirrell offers us is camaraderie. We're not alone in our curiosity, not as the knight, but as the player. Quirrell is the game's beating heart. His questline results in him regaining his memory. Quirrell was Monomon's apprentice, one of the 3 dreamers you're sent to kill. It turns out that his journey was to eventually arrive here, just like us. However, he was summoned to undo Monomon's protection in order to help us. After the deed is done, we find him on the shores of his own oasis, the Blue Lake. Again we meet, my short friend. Here at last, I feel at peace. Twice I've seen this world, and though my service may have stripped the first experience from me, I'm thankful I could witness its beauty again. Hallownest is a vast and wondrous thing, but with as many wonders as it holds, I've seen none quite so intriguing as you. I could try to be more sentimental about this, but honestly, I don't need to. Regardless of lore or world building, if the combat sucked, if the movement felt awful, how do you not love a character like that? That's just the thing though, it's not just Quirrell. Exploration, combat, platforming, story. These are the pillars of Hollow Knight, and they're built by passion. My moments might be different from yours, and I encourage you to share them, but truly, there are hundreds. Every exchange of dialogue, every new room, every new boss can be my or your next favorite thing, and that is simply beautiful to me. Thank you, and have a nice day. If you'd like to talk about Hollow Knight or are generally insane, you should join my Discord. It is hell, truly hell, but it's mine. Also, if you haven't, you should subscribe and watch everything I've ever made, except for my old content. I did interview Chills once, so that was fun. Anyways, once again, have a truly fantastic day.